If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 389 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, aka the Pod God, Shawnee Podcast, whatever you want to call me. Joined today by the harp blagger of Irish MMA media, Graeme McDonald, as we talk about Jesus. What a night last Saturday in the world of mixed martial arts, and we'll be talking about more after that as well, but absolute craziness. Before we get into all of it, it's never too early to start playing the Christmas music. It's never too early to start thinking about gifts, whether it's for a friend or friends in your pants. You can make this season to be jolly with Manscaped. Do your little drummer boy a little favour and use the Lawnmower 4.0 to avoid another silent night in the bedroom. Then add in Manscaped's top-of-the-line shower products to have the people thinking all I want for Christmas is you. Santa cares about his sack, and you should too. Look nice when you get naughty by going to manscaped.com and using the code SevereMMA for 20% off and free shipping as well. Myself and Graeme have been using it since before last Christmas, and I'll tell you what, it served us well because Manscaped's Platinum Package 4.0 is brilliant. It's a one-stop shop for any man who deserves it all this Christmas. You know, you could deck your balls from, you know, face the balls for this mistletoe season. The Platinum Package has each product from the best-selling Performance Package Plus, Ultra Premium Body Wash, Ultra Premium 2-in-1 Shampoo and Conditioner, and Ultra Premium Deodorant. It's the best way to smell fresh, from your Santa hat to your candy cane. The Lawnmower 4.0 Body Trimmer and Weed Whacker Nose and Ear Hair Trimmer feature proprietary advanced skin-safe technology to protect your delicate presence. Plus, both are waterproof, so there's no issue if you want to use it in the shower or anything like that. There's also a 4000K LED light on it, so you can light the way for Rudolph when he's on his way in. Now that you've groomed your candy cane, it's time to make sure. We call them candy canes here as well. You know, we don't use the word candy, but we do call them candy canes, don't we? Yeah, so I know sweet cans, we should call them. It's time to make sure you don't smell like a reindeer with the Platinum Package of shower products. I have some of them on the way, so I'll let you know what they're like next week, lads. Tune in. All of Manscaped's shower gear is sulfur-free, vegan, and made to have your skin feeling hydrated and smelling fresh. But smelling good doesn't stop at the shower. The Crop Preserve Body Odor and Proper Reviver, which I've had for a long time and absolutely love, can solve stank problems all day long. Once they touch your sack, you'll never go back. The Platinum Package 4.0, the Platinum Package 4.0, sitting under the tree, is guaranteed to put someone in the holiday spirit. A few holiday spirits would be nice now, actually. A bit of an old whiskey or something would be lovely. And for the perfect stocking stuffer, add in the brand new Body Buffer, an incredible body scrubber that makes exfoliating easy and I want one of them, lads. And a cleaner than an old loofah. I love an old loofah and one of them. They're brilliant, but this one I'm sure is great. I haven't seen it yet, actually. Need that one now. Manscaped, lash it out. Anyway, get 20% off and free shipping with the code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using the code SevereMMA. Manscaped, get your jingle balls ready for the holidays. All right, Graeme, let's get straight into it. It was a mad night. It was a mad night. One of the greatest cards in UFC history. I would say not a great one for like proclaiming that, because I find it very hard to remember them. But for this not to be, I think would be a bit, would be a bit outside the box. It's definitely one of the best of the year, anyway. And look, best in terms of finishes. Now there wasn't like many classic fights. There was a classic finish in the main event. I suppose the Poirier.
Well, that's just the Poirier, yeah.
That was. I don't know. Was it a classic fight? It was a very interesting fight and a very, very good fight. But when you look at some of the other Poirier fights, or even some of the other Chandler fights, it probably doesn't stack up, against him. But having said that, a very good. Actually, a fight that I kind of predicted on the preview show that it'd be like that. It's maybe not as amazing as everyone thought, but still like really good, and an extra bit of tactics thrown in. I feel like, if I had to pick a team of the night, I think it was like some fighters trying to be tactically more aware, it going massively against them, and then they lose. I feel like we've spent it's 29 years. The birthday of the UFC was yesterday. We spent 29 years getting away from that, just going in there, throwing a few paws, and we have to be tactical, we have to be technical, and you just chew it all out the window. UFC 281. If you try to be technical, if you try to be tactical, it's just going to go against you. You're not going to win it, and that to me was the case here for a lot of these. But what a night, a magical night ended the way it ended. And I'll be honest, Graeme, before we get into I haven't been enjoying the UFC that much recently. We did a podcast there, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, where we just kind of ignored the UFC card. And we talked about, it was last week actually, we talked about this card, and we talked about obviously the big Cage Warriors card from last week as well, just because like the UFC, and this is me personally, and if you disagree with me or if you feel differently in the way you look at it, fair enough, but like it just isn't as appealing to me as it once was, and I needed something like this. Honestly, I needed something to kind of remind me why I love the UFC. I still love MMA, and I still love, but the UFC just seems to be such a drag recently, and this followed by actually coming up in 3 events time. I think there's like a month off. I just hope we start the new year next year and we'll be all revitalised. But this is a great way to to start the closing out of the year in the world of mixed martial arts. Did you enjoy this card as much as I did, Greg? Like I feel like you were the old grey man shouting at the cloud long before I was, but I've turned into that now, and even I, with my black heart, enjoyed this one. Did you enjoy it as much as me?
Yeah, it was a brilliant card. And going to what you're saying, I think over the years I've had like slumps where I'm kind of like, another UFC or whatever, and it definitely doesn't help with the oversaturation and cards that don't have any jeopardy whatsoever on them on paper or in practice. So it definitely it definitely can wear on you a little bit when you're covering all these cards so intensively, and there isn't really that fight to get you excited, or sometimes a fight that maybe there's one fight that's exciting on the card, but then that fight doesn't turn out to be that great in reality and in practice, and it can be a bit of a drag. But a card like this, obviously there was sad moments, like the Frankie Edgar fight. We'll probably get into that, but there was some really, really good moments, and it was, as you said, it was kind of a bit of a throwback. People were just laying all on the line, and it led to loads of finishes, and it was just overall it was a really, really good card. But sometimes these cards can look really good on paper and not turn out in practice, but this one really lived up to it, in my opinion. Like, I know the main event was maybe much better than maybe you expected. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. You probably thought it was going to be a bit more, a little bit more one-sided than it was. Obviously, with Adesanya winning, probably was the prediction for most people, and that was an upset as well, which adds to the excitement of the card. But yeah, overall, it was a really, really good card. Really good finishes, excitement, back and forth fights, and yeah, you couldn't really ask for much more. And as you said, in a long line of kind of meaningless cards, it definitely is a much needed kind of injection of jeopardy and excitement into our lives. 100%.
Some we're going to be talking more about on Speaker's Corner, I think, actually this week. But yeah, it's very interesting. I think the problem is as well when you get a card like this, which looks good on paper, and you're not even that excited for it. Like that's a big issue. I know, as I said, that's a UFC thing, because I'm excited for one championship championship cards, excited for Cage Warriors cards and some Bellator cards and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, it just feels like the UFC has gone so heartless recently that
it's kind of what Dana White said would never happen. You know, he's slagging off boxing, being like, oh, these boxing cards is one decent fight and the rest are shite. And, you know, he's been putting out a lot of cards like that himself recently.
Oh, he has. Oh, indeed, he has. With all shite fights, never mind the one good one. But this wasn't one of them, and this turned everything around. Let's talk about the main event, son. Let's get straight into it. You made an assumption there about my thoughts in the main event, and you were correct. This was the exact opposite of what I thought, because I thought it would be a boring, very technical fight, and it turned out to be, I wouldn't say like it wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but it was a relatively exciting, I would say exciting fight with probably worse technical ability than I was expecting. Do you know what? I think this is the sort of fight you watch live, you get kind of drawn into, you really like, and then maybe you go and watch it on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, and maybe after listening to this podcast again, and you kind of say, oh, hold on, that fight, it wasn't that it was a bad fight, I'd never say it was a bad fight, but I don't think either lad fought exceptionally well, if you'd put it that way. Like, I think it's easier to look at it, I suppose, from the Izzy point of view and see maybe the things that he didn't do necessarily, but from even Pereira's point of view, I don't necessarily like. I think his tactics worked well, even though he was still losing 3-1 entering the fifth round. But I don't think like I don't think in practice. And I'll explain why, because like I thought what Pereira did very well. I was talking to the lads about it last night, and Ian said it as well in the group, and I thought it watching. It's like he pressured very, very well, and I actually thought Izzy dealt very well with the pressure. And it was we talked about Izzy coming in and being maybe boring and all of that. Alex Pereira's pressure made Izzy fight. At the other side of it, Izzy tried, and I said this coming in, and people are probably saying like, oh, what are you talking about turning into a great fight and all. If you look at it right, overall as a full fight, what way did Izzy fight? Okay, he fought very well off the back foot when Pereira pressured him, but when Izzy was in the ascendancy at all times, it was always clinching. It was always trying to get the fight taken down. It was always circling on the outside.
I think it was even trying to take the fight down. Was it more trying to wear Alex out as well, like up against the cage?
A little bit. I thought the best thing he did to wear Alex out was actually the body work. I thought it was very smart. Like I was so impressed with how well Israel Adesanya fought off the back foot when Pereira was pressuring him. He fought because those body kicks wore him out. The jab when he was coming out was brilliant. The right hand when he was coming out, or the left hand if he was fighting in southpaw, was absolutely brilliant. And all of that went together to wear him out. But if we were talking about the tactics coming in, I joked, and not joked, but I meant it. I said NCAA Adesanya, and he tried to wrestle throughout it. And I think the fact that and I said this last week as well, like people are saying, oh, he's going to come out and wrestle from number one, the start of the fight. And I knew he wouldn't until there was like a bit of a struggle with the striking. And it wasn't necessarily that he struggled with the striking, but he struggled with the area of the striking. Like Alex Pereira wasn't the guy that was standing there allowing Izzy to feint and throw his shots. Like they kept saying in the commentary, he's biting on the feints. But when he did bite in the feints, but then he was coming back and he was throwing shots, and I think he did well there, and he did well to pressure, but he actually wasn't landing that much, and Izzy was kind of eating him up, fighting off the back foot. But then he changed. Like it felt like one of those fights, right, where if you're confident enough to stay in that area, you probably should. You should let Alex Pereira come on you. Now that's a very difficult thing to do, because he did that in the second kickboxing match and he got knocked out because of it. But when Izzy changed it up, he started to win the fight. And fair play to him, he was right too, and he was winning the fight before that as well, don't get me wrong. He lost the second round, it was very close, he could have won it. But the change up in him in that fight sent it from like, this is a close, interesting fight where Pereira could land the big shots, to Adesanya kind of changing up his tactics to win, and I give him credit for that. But it was him trying to do it the easiest way possible. People were thinking this was going to be a stand-up barn burner fight. it wasn't that. And it just led to like, and this is my point, and I'm getting around to it, about neither lad maybe fighting as well as we would expect from him possibly, because Izzy, like there was at one stage it turned into a white belt match on the ground. Now Izzy was winning that, and it was a very smart tactical decision from him, but you know, it wasn't the best mixed martial arts in the world. And with the stuff Pereira was doing, his good points weren't working early in the fight. Now we can talk about the last part of the fight and how that changed, but in general I thought the first 4 rounds were exciting but lackluster at the same time. Am I being too critical, Graeme? What way did you say?
I don't know, because it was like the jeopardy, and I was watching the fight and watching it as if it was on a knife edge, and either guy could land the big strike at any moment. So for me, I thought it was a really exciting fight.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. I did too. But I'm kind of talking about like if you're watching it next Tuesday or Wednesday and you're actually breaking it down technically, which is what I'm trying to do here. Like I was caught up in the fight. I thought it was a very interesting fight. I thought Pereira could have knocked him out at any stage, or Adesanya landed a few big hard shots too. And, you know, maybe that's the way we should look at the fight, and that's definitely the way we can look at the fight as well. But from a tactical and technical point of view, I think it was a bit lackluster. But you are right. I would agree with you as well. Sorry for.
I think part of maybe why you think it was lackluster is, you know, these guys have not fought, but they've kickboxed each other before, and you know, they've kind of picked up things, and they're maybe wary of things as well. And I think that plays into it a little bit as well. And you know, obviously, as I said before the fight, in Adesanya's head, he knows that he's been beaten by this guy before in striking. So I think the game plan all along would have been to mix in some wrestling, but not go full wrestler, just to kind of, you know, tire Pereira out. He's obviously not used to. Obviously, Adesanya's no like black belt in grappling, but he's much more used to the cardio that's involved and things like that. And you could see the disparity on the ground. Even though Adesanya didn't look great on the ground, he was miles above Pereira. So I think, you know, if Adesanya had have kind of avoided that big strike at the end, or the big strikes at the end that finished it, we might have been calling this a really well executed game plan by Adesanya. And obviously, when you got somebody as big power as Alex in there, and who's always dangerous, even when he's tired, even when he's losing a fight, he's been there before many times, and he trusts in his power, and it came true for him. He stayed composed even in moments where it looked like the fight was slipping away. And I think there's a lot of credit has to go to him as well. But for Adesanya, obviously it's a fight he should have won on paper and in practice. But you know, maybe he'll get a chance at it again. But when he's not really considered the most exciting fighter, Dana might not want to, and the UFC might not want to put on that immediate rematch. They might want to, you know, pick a nice style matchup for Pereira and go from there. But it's a tough one to take for Adesanya, because, you know, if he had I think he got a little bit lazy. He got a little bit, maybe it was the leg kicks that added up and made him a little bit flat-footed. That didn't help, but his movement kind of slowed down, and 100%. He was more willing to kind of stand up against the fence exactly where Alex wanted him. And, you know, he should know better after being in there for so many, you know, rounds with Alex in the past, that you can't do that. And that was a big mistake. And obviously he'll look back on that and probably have big regrets, but Alex really did take advantage of the situation. And I don't know what you thought about the stoppage. I thought it could have went a little bit longer. It looked like 90% it was going to be finished, but he did only get hit with like 2 of 8 or 9 punches. He was moving his head. He definitely was rocked, but I would have liked to see that go a little bit longer, even though it did look like it was close to the end. Yeah,
I'll talk about the stoppage in 1 second. Just one thing, or 2 things I want to touch on before that. You said about the mentality as well coming in, and I thought Izzy from the walkout, just, you know, he didn't look normal, Izzy, and obviously he didn't do the mad walkout or anything like that, and he was all business. But I thought he looked a little bit nervous, and the tactic during the fight as well of the wrestling, like, I wonder, did that play into the 5th round, making Adesanya tired? Like, it felt, if you go back and watch that 5th round and you ask someone who's the more tired person than that, they'd all probably tell you Adesanya, which is interesting, because, you know, we talk all the time about accumulative damage and all, and wrestling being scored. Well, if you're scoring the wrestling there based on the output of it afterwards, in terms of it taking away your gas tank, in that 5th round, there was only one man who looked like he had a better gas tank. And as well, as Israel Adesanya, Adesanya.
Alex took a break at the first like 4 minutes of the fourth round. He didn't really do much. He kind of got his win back. You know, that was probably in hindsight, it was obviously a great decision. And well, I think part of it was Adesanya being tired, and part of it was maybe the leg kicks, and maybe that the leg check in the fifth round that the commentators kind of, it's just a misstep, but I think he misstepped because of the hard leg check, and obviously would have hurt his leg, like, so that obviously didn't help in his movement.
I agree 100%. And as well as Adesanya was fighting off the back foot in the first, 3 of the first 4 rounds, obviously one was largely grappling, but he fought so badly off the back foot in the 5th round. It was, another great case for why open scoring would be terrible. But it felt like he knew he was 3 rounds ahead, and he just had to kind of wait on the back foot. You can't do that against Alex Pereira. You can't do that. You really, really can't do that. And in the end, 2 things went against Israel Adesanya. His wanton desire to keep MMA as safe as possible. It's not going to work. It can't work. Like, it'll work for a certain extent, and it's worked very, very well for him. But when you're met with a high-level striker like Alex Pereira like that, you have to do different and more things. And now, I thought Israel Adesanya would win. I thought he'd be technical enough and tactical enough to get to a decision. But he wasn't. He wasn't. I feel like his that like stay safe attitude just took over. It really took over. And the second part of it, and this is probably a bad fight to say this in, but I think we talk all the time about well-roundedness in MMA, and I just think he's not that well-rounded. Like, I've said it for a long time that Israel Adesanya is an overrated fighter, and I think it's because the division is so bad that he has done so well. Now, he's a good fighter, don't get me wrong, a very, very good fighter, but someone with his ability in other divisions, I don't think would have half the success that he has had. Now, it's funny that Alex Pereira, someone who's probably less well-rounded than him, was able to show that up. But I think, like, just the fact that he wrestled and then was unable to maybe carry that cardio into the 5th round because of the wrestling was a reason he lost. And also, if he was a better wrestler or a better striker for MMA, he could have won that fight in a different way, in a more a more safe way to steal his tactic in that 5th round. Now, this is me being very, very harsh, but we're talking about the very, very top fighters in the world, and I'm here. My job is to, like a Raikeen or a Gary Neville or whatever, to look at it afterwards and give my honest tactical breakdown of it. And I thought that was it. I really thought that. I think that 5th round, it was bad. It was. You can't say a good thing about it. Now, as you said, that leg check, it rattled him a bit more than anything else. Even if it was just falling over, he got back up. It didn't seem the same. He definitely wasn't throwing from the back foot as much as he was before. And okay, why do you throw from the back foot? I remember I talked to Ian Gary about this before one of his fights, and he was like, "Oh, my opponent loves to push forward. Well, no, what am I going to throw?" And I go straight away, "The jab you're going to throw, obviously." And he was like, "Yeah, of course." And then what did he do? He threw the jab. But you throw those jabs, you throw those right hands from the back foot, so you don't allow your opponent to push you up against the cage and land those 3 or 4 punch combinations. What happened in this? Throughout the first, 3 of the first 4 rounds, throughout the first 20 minutes, Israel Adesanya constantly fought off the back foot. Okay, he hit 1 or 2 shots, of course you're going to, but he was winning the fight based on his ability to not allow Alex Pereira to move forward and dominate him with strikes. Pereira was able to move forward, but he wasn't dominating him with strikes. In the 5th round, he overwhelmed him with strikes in the last, minute of that round, or the minute that it lasted in that round. And that was the key difference. Why did Adesanya get knocked out? If you want to ask yourself that question, because he stopped fighting well off the back foot. What's the reason for that? Is it, you can decide that yourself. I'm not sure, to be honest. I would, if I was to guess, I would say he was trying to be safe. Which, I'm sure a lot of people who've probably paid 80 quid are like, well, you tried to be safe once too often and then it worked against you. But on the stoppage then, and we'll maybe I'll run through the fight again afterwards in a second, and we'll see if we've anything else to say about it. But look, the stoppage was an interesting one, because I always, I've talked to refs and officials before, and they always tell me you have to look at what came before the stoppage as well as the stoppage itself. Now, I think looking at what came after the stoppage, it's a bit foolhardy, and anyone listening to this podcast knows I try to avoid that because, everyone's going to go, oh, what the fuck are you talking about? Or some people like slump down, and even, either side of it, I don't think it's a great reason to give it. He landed those two massive right hands, followed by the massive left hook, followed by another right hand. So, like, if you think about it, right, you've Israel Adesanya, one of the most defensively sound fighters in the world, has taken 4 full force shots to the head in a row, and fell down and is now backing up and falling away to the right-hand side of the cage, just falling around and around and around. And then he puts his hands down, puts his head out. I don't think he
was falling around and around and around. I think he was moving his head, trying to make a moving target.
But before that, he fell down to his knee, went to the right and ran, 10 steps to the right before that. Then he did put his hands out, moved his head. Absolutely, he was trying to move his head. But is that an intelligent defense, to put your hands down after being hurt that much, not covering up at all, and just like trying to swivel your head out the way? I would tend not to agree. I would tend to say that is a good stoppage. Could he have given him 1 or 2 more? Yeah. But I always look for in ones like that now specifically. And there was one in the Christian Leroy Duncan one in Cage Wars, I think was the exact opposite. You should only be allowed 1 shot that's completely undefended. Only 1. And I think Israel Adesanya got at least 1 of them, and Goddard stepped in. I watching it back many times, I can't call it a bad stoppage. I couldn't. Did you think it was bad? Or
I don't think it was a bad stoppage. I think it was going. It was very likely to go. For a TKO with 1 or 2 more shots. But we've seen guys in the past, be able to survive that and kind of get on their bike a little bit and ride it out. So I would have liked to see if he could be put down with the next shot or 2, and if he was hit with a big shot and didn't defend himself, went down, then fair enough. But I'm not saying it's a bad stoppage, but I think it was, for my liking personally, I think it was a little early. But I can completely understand the stoppage, and I'm not saying it's a bad stoppage or anything like that.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. I wouldn't necessarily totally disagree, but yeah, I think there was no doubt about it. He was badly hurt, and it was craziness.
One thing we should mention is Adesanya nearly had him at the end of the first round.
But you didn't get that left hand after the bell. I know he kind of threw it on the bell.
I think that was fine. I think he threw it. He can't see the counter going down exactly like we can, and he's in the middle of a fucking fist fight here, and he's got the guy cracked, and he's going for the finish, and the bell goes in during the motion of the punch, and the punch lands kind of directly after the bell sounds. So I think that was fine.
Yeah, it was definitely borderline. I wouldn't blame Izzy for that at all, definitely. But it's one of those ones where you look at it afterwards, and if he had knocked him out, I'm sure there would have been consternation about it. But yeah, the first round, let's just run through it quickly. The
rule is though, isn't it? Where
if you throw it, but still, people are stupid. It was one of those ones. It was definitely after the bell, but it wasn't illegal. It was like that time, remember Bruno Fernandes scored a goal after the final whistle had gone because VAR came back and gave a penalty, and everyone's like, oh, you're scoring, you're giving Man United goals when the game is over and all this. It's like, well, yeah, if you don't understand how the game works, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, no answer back for that one, Graeme, there, no?
I think,
just going to leave
go back and pick through Man United decisions for fucking the rest of eternity.
We could. We
never get anywhere.
That's true. But look, the first round I thought was very close until the end. I did think Izzy was just ahead. He was touching him with leg kicks, landing the right hand down through the middle. In the second round, Izzy was fighting well off the cage. Again, I thought very impressed with him in that round throughout throughout the whole thing. 2 nice jabs kind of turned around a little bit from Pereira. Izzy tried to get the takedown in the second, no good, and exactly as I predicted coming in the second, Pereira lands a few shots. Izzy will go for the takedown, but he couldn't get it. Izzy did land a big hard right hand, but another few hard shots from Alex Pereira came back, and then Izzy tried to clinch, but in the last minute I think Pereira kind of took the round. He landed a few shots, got a late takedown as well, which I'm sure sealed the round for him. That seemed to be a team of the night, the late takedown stealing the round, which is absolutely ludicrous, as we all know here. But the turnaround, then Izzy came back, he landed a hard head kick at one stage, body lock takedown then from Izzy. He took the back, landed a few shots, and then the white belt BJJ match started, which was, God almighty, it was low level stuff. Like, Pereira was deep on a knee bar at one stage, and I don't think he even knew it. Like, just like, sure, no, we won't bother. And Izzy got on top and landed a few shots again. The 4th round, Pereira looked very tired to me at the start of that 4th round, and the commentary can.
Before you go on there, do you think Izzy should have, put the hooks in and gone for the?
He tried. I just think I don't think he was good enough, to be honest. He put one hook in, and he tried to put the other hook in. Like, I think he was probably afraid that he'd land on the bottom.
He looked a bit tentative. Yeah, he looked a bit hesitant.
He looked into the bottom right. Yeah. I would agree. But in the 4th, Pereira was tired. Izzy was landing on the outside, and I think now that you said it, maybe you're right. Like, maybe he kind of took that round off, but there was absolutely nothing coming back.
I think the last minute he got going, but the first 4 minutes he was like, "Fucking, let me just get my breath here." I think. Yeah,
and he landed actually that last minute of that 4th round. I have written here in my notes. I was actually really good. Like, and I think at that stage as well, like, he had that 3 or 4 minutes off, and Izzy didn't. And Izzy was kind of eating a couple there as well, and he did clinch. But a big left hook on the bell from Pereira was underrated, I think, on the commentary. But it was a big shot, and then in the 5th, Alex was coming forward. As I said, Izzy refusing to fight off the cage, fell over on that leg kick, 2 right hands hurt him, left hook absolutely smashed him, and then the right hand was the beginning of the end then for Israel Adesanya. And it was one of those moments, Graeme, where I was sitting alone in my sitting room at around 5:45, and I just started roaring. I was like, "Oh my God, what?" It was one of those moments where, I'm talking obviously for the last 20 minutes here about a very tactical side and point of view of it, but forget that for a while. This was a 98-minute winner. This was absolutely amazing, and I'd no dog in the race here. I didn't mind which guy won or anything like that, and I gave Izzy to obviously as my pick to win, and I gave him to win by submission as one of my bets for the week, which we almost did, plus 1,400. But honestly, I needed a moment like this in MMA. And we started off the podcast with it. It feels like there has been moments like this, the Leon Edwards one and things, but it just doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like moments like this are happening as much as they were before, just because there's so much stuff around them. And the fact that we got another one, and we saw one last night, is just brilliant. It was just so brilliant. Like, the one I always harken back to is Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva, and it's funny, the middleweight division as well, that I give so much shtick to, because it's a terrible division, if we're being honest. Here's another one in the middleweight division that absolutely shocked and awed, I suppose. But it was
who would have thought an Adesanya fight would have rekindled your fire?
Maybe people were right when they said the opponents need to bring stuff out of maybe they were, but yeah, he honestly, credit to Pereira. It's funny because, like I said this briefly at the start, I don't think Pereira fought half as well as he could. Like, even when he was taking initiative, pushing forward, I don't think he was landing as many shots. I think there's a lot more to come from Pereira, and people are talking about the rematch as if Izzy's just going to go in and win it the next time. I think Pereira's going to be more, more confident going into the rematch if they do it straight away. And I wouldn't be assured at all that Izzy will win that one. He showed now twice that he can hurt him badly, and he has the power, and he has a good chin as well in terms of he can get hurt himself and come back. Like, Izzy in his losses, obviously that one in kickboxing, the one last night, and even the Blachowicz one as well, when things kind of go bad for him, they go bad for him. I know he didn't get knocked out in the Blachowicz one, but you know what I mean? It turned the corner for him, and that corner kind of kept turning. It's interesting to see if he can come back from it. Look, you look at both of those guys last night and you think they have lots of improvements to make in their game everywhere, so it could change a lot between now and the rematch. Do you think a rematch is the right thing? Do you think they'll do the immediate rematch?
I think they probably should, but who knows? It's very hard to predict what they're going to do next. They could want to put on, who do they want Izzy back as champion? That's the question. Does Dana and the people making the decisions, do they want them back as champion? If they do, they'll probably make the rematch. If they don't, they could put Rob Whittaker in there. I don't know, that could be a big show. They have a lot of options here. It kind of frees up the division and frees up the choices for the UFC, and we'll kind of find out how Dana and the people making the decisions feel about Izzy. Are they pissed off at him for a perceived kind of safeness and boring?
I don't think so.
Fights?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they haven't said it publicly, but if they are, then this could be where we find out that they are. But I suspect they'll put on the rematch. I don't know what pay-per-views this did, but I think this will do even more pay-per-views the second time. It's a coin toss these days. There's no real rhyme or reason to a lot of the matchmaking. But yeah, if I had a free bet, I'd probably say they'd make the rematch straight away. Yeah,
I think Robert Whittaker's fighting. He's fighting Paulo Costa, isn't he, over in Australia? So Whittaker's kind of tied up, although they could change that very quickly if they wanted, I suppose. But yeah, I think they will give Adesanya the rematch just because he's obviously, I think he's 12 unbeaten or something at middleweight,
and he deserves it, I think, as well. To be honest,
yeah, he probably
I think
does.
When you've been on top that long and you're in a fight, you're winning and you lose in the third round, and I think he deserves a rematch and should get it. But as I said, these days you never really know what the logic is in some of the matchmaking. Right,
I suppose we better touch on the rest of the card here, Graeme, or we'll turn into a 10-minute, a 10-hour podcast even here. Look, Zhang Weili and Carla Esparza, we won't be talking about this one for 35 minutes like the first fight. It went kind of exactly how we thought. Zhang came out, landed more power. The scrambles kind of, they went both ways, I would say, in the first round. Zhang had her in more trouble. She had the back a few times, almost got a rear naked choke at one stage. But Carla, she went for an armbar at one stage. She landed on top for a second. She's tough, and she kept in the fight. A lot of people thought it was just going to be, you walk in, you pick up your belt and you walk home, but Esparza wasn't having that, and she tried her best, and she did well. But the second round game, she was looking for a takedown. Again, the transition was won here by Zhang, and Esparza needed to win all the transitions here. And when she, in the first round, she probably won maybe, 1 from 4 or something like that. And in the second round, when she lost the first one, when the takedown attempt didn't work, and when Zhang Weili ended up taking her back and catching her in that kind of half crucifix position, I suppose you would call it, it was all over from there. It looked like she was choking her one arm. And then Carla Esparza was kind of the left hand, wasn't it, of Zhang she was controlling, but Zhang got the left hand out and ended up rear naked choking her. As I said, not a fight we need to spend ages breaking down, because it was just Zhang Weili going in there and dominating, but she needed to do it. She did do it. She turned up. She had a fun walkout, looked good in the walkout. Just cut a promo afterwards. It's weird.
Carla's a hard person to look good against, and I think Wang went out there and looked really good against her. Maybe I didn't think Esparza's performance was maybe as good as yours. I thought she kind of got beaten everywhere. I think Yang made a couple of kind of over aggressive moves on the ground and lost position momentarily, but was able to scramble back quite easily. Kind of beat Esparza where she's best, and was definitely the deserved winner. And as I said, it's hard to look good against Esparza, and she did. So yeah, fair play to her, and getting that belt now. Esparza, unexpectedly kind of there, and or back at the top and winning the belt. And I think maybe I said it before, she won the belt, that the game's kind of passed her by a little bit, and she obviously kind of proved me wrong there and got the belt back. But I kind of stand by that statement a little bit and say that like her game just isn't as effective as it used to be against these high level girls, and it's going to be very hard for her to climb back to the top, I think.
You're only wrong, Graeme, until you're right. And
Time will always make you right.
Time will always make you right.
Frankie Edgar will attest to that.
Indeed, yeah. We'll get to him in a second. It's interesting to see what they do next year with the belt, because like I said at the night Carla Esparza won it, it just felt like she was not the interim champion or anything like that, but it felt like she was just holding the belt until Zhang Weili beat her. Yeah, it was just a matter of time, and then this has happened. So usually we're kind of looking ahead and we're saying who's next. Like Rose has beaten Zhang Weili twice, in the last year and a half. So like it makes sense, I suppose, to make that fight again. But Rose put on one of the worst displays in the history of the UFC in her last fight. Lost that fight, hasn't fought since. So like, does she deserve a title shot straight away after that? I don't know. Maybe she does based on the 2 wins, but it'd be interesting. I know people were calling for Lemos as well after she won last week, which is fair enough. And I think Spencer said, and it was a good point, like get some new blood in there, which I like. I like a bit of new blood in divisions. I like new people getting title shots, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. What way do you think they're going to go, Graeme? Like they love to see. They seem to love to putting Namajunas back in there, and they seem to love her as one of their stars. Do you think she'll get it, or do you think it'll be someone else?
Oof, if she hadn't have been such a stinker, I think it would have been pretty nailed on for Rose, but it definitely throws it up in the air. You could just go with like Amanda Lemos or somebody like that, I think Rose, you can sell it, she's beaten her twice, she's a champion, stuff like that, but if I'm not sure how many people bought that last Rose pay-per-view, but if people remember that one, maybe they'll stay away, and that'll definitely be a concern for the UFC, or a point they'll be thinking about when they're thinking about who to make in this, or who to match make the champion against. So yeah, it could go either way again. It's hard to predict these things, but yeah, it's probably another rematch. It's turning into a lot of rematches. Fresh blood would be nice, but you don't want to rush fresh blood in either, and get them getting eaten up too early. That's true. That is true.
Let's talk about Frankie. So before we get to finish up maybe the main card with the positivity of Dustin Poirier and Chandler. Look, what is there to say? It's people got mad at me a couple of years ago when I was saying about Frankie Edgar and that he had done all he needs to do. It was only going to get worse, especially when it goes down to 135 pounds. A guy who built his career on being the smaller, faster guy, going in there fighting smaller, faster guys. And indeed, last night it was a taller, faster guy, which was just a death sentence really for Frankie. I know, a lot of people, they seem to look at this as, oh look, Frankie wanted one more, it didn't go well, that's the way the game is. I look at it, it's his 5th knockout in the last 8 fights, having never been knocked out in 28 fights previous to that. Why did that need to happen? Like, why did that really need to happen? Especially this one. Frankie has had a hip replacement, hasn't he? Like, Frankie has had some serious surgery since his last few knockouts. Like, why did this need to happen? Like, who is that? And just the disgusting look of Ali fucking Abdelaziz walking back to the dressing with him, and they're smirking and laughing and stuff. It's like, this guy is after giving away a piece of his brain yet again for you and your fucking 10%. Like, honestly, it was sickening. It was I didn't like this at all. I haven't liked the last few Frankie Edgar fights. And anyone listening to this podcast or see me, and I talked about it in Submission Radio once, knows that I've been very consistent on this. And it's because I have great respect for Frankie, and I've enjoyed his fights down through the years. But like, you don't ride for free. He's had the most time ever of anyone inside the octagon, and you don't get that without paying for it. You really, really don't. And why do you have to add more to that? Why do you have to throw a bucket of water into the ocean? I really don't understand it, Graeme.
I agree with like your sentiment, but if Frankie Edgar is hell bent on fighting, like the UFC could say, okay, you're not fighting for the UFC, and he can go somewhere else.
What about his family? What about his management? What about the people around him who love him? Like, stop him from himself.
Yeah, but if a guy's hell bent on doing something, You know, I don't know what the situation is. Maybe he's been talked into it. Maybe they're, you know, not talking to him about retirement or stuff like that. But I assume that, you know, retirement's been on the discussion table with his family and with his management. It must have been, you know, over the last few fights, as you said, it's not been going well, in devastating fashion. So you'd have to think that there's some kind of talk going on there. And these fighters, they just have such ridiculous self-belief, and they think they can just go in and get that win and sail off into the sunset. But then, you know, most of the times they do get that win, they're like, oh, I'm back. And they're, you know, it never ends well, and very rarely ends well anyway. You know, there's definitely a few exceptions out there, but yeah, we've seen it time and time again, and it's a sad situation, you know. Sad to see Frankie like that. His family being there as well. Like, what the fuck is kind of decision is that?
Why
like,
do people keep doing that? Why do they keep fucking doing that?
I don't know.
Jesus.
You know, I don't know. Because they just believe that they're going to get that win, that triumph, you know, that Rocky moment. You know, they just have that in their DNA, built it throughout years of just being a fighter. Like, you know, being a tough, like Frankie Edgar, you know, his legacy's kind of been put into the background so long ago, and so far back on his record. But he was in some absolutely amazing fights, some, like, you know, underdog wins and come from behinds and all that stuff. And ideally, if you were writing the fairy tale, he would have hung it up like years ago. But that's just not how it goes in MMA. Like, these guys are just they're not logical like that. You know, obviously they're taking, like, Frankie Edgar's taking a lot of headshots. You know, I'm sure he has some, you know, concussions and CTE probably coming his way. Like, sad as it is, like, I'd be surprised if he didn't. And you got to think his family and people around him have had conversations, and they know that. But with these guys, if somebody with Frankie Edgar's fighting spirit, I'd say it'd be hard to tell them, you know, you're finished and that's the end of it. Like, it just doesn't work like that.
I 100% agree with that, and it's definitely not easy. The fact of the matter is, though, like, he got knocked out by Brian Ortega in 2018. He came back, beat Cub Swanson, he got his title shot. And, like, why keep going after that? Like, you had that last shot. You knew it was your last shot against Max Holloway. You lost unanimously.
But if I just drop down this division, or if I just do this different, you know what I mean? They always have a fucking...
Okay, yeah, fair enough, right? So you get knocked out viciously against the Korean Zombie. You go down that division. You get knocked out viciously against Corey Sandhagen. Then you get knocked out viciously against Marlon Vera. Like, how many opportunities to keep getting knocked out viciously? That's 3 vicious knockouts in a row after the Chan Sung Jung one, after the Brian Ortega one. Like, I understand having another opportunity, or like thinking that things could change, or having one last fight, but to do it 5 times, and I'm 5 times is harsh, obviously, but like the last 3, do we really need to see Frankie Edgar getting destroyed 3 times in a row, like knocked out heavily 3 times in a row after his whole career, 35 fights deep? God almighty, like, what? Sometimes, you know, I love the sport, but sometimes I fucking hate it, and this is a part of it. It's like Frankie Edgar's taken many years off his life in these last few fights. He absolutely has, and I don't like it. I really fucking don't like it. I really don't like it. But look, what can you do? I've talked about it many times down through the years, and as you said, Graeme, we have to look at the reality of the situation as well. It's going to keep happening with different people, and it's going to stay like this, unfortunately. Look, we saw with Anderson Silva a couple of weeks ago, fighting fucking boxing YouTubers and all, our heroes, our greats, our Jesus. It ends in a sad way always, almost. But look, these things happen. Chris Gutierrez, look, give credit to him. He went in there and did what he needed. You know, decimated Frankie Edgar, and you know, he'll move on. Looks obviously a very good fighter, and we must give him credit as well. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one to take. Let's. Yeah, okay. Let's talk. It's hard to transition out of that, but let's talk about Poirier versus Chandler. A very interesting fight. Another fight I would put in the category of exciting, but probably a bit tactically questionable. I think, like I talked about coming into the fight that I think Michael Chandler would try to fight a little bit more conservatively, and he did. I think he did, to be fair, because he tried to wrestle, he tried to go for takedown.
Well, that was when he got tired after exploding in the first round.
What did you think of that takedown in the first round? He had Poirier back. Poirier said it afterwards, even like, he had me there. I was in bits. Like he probably could have finished me, and then he goes for the
commentators. Oh, it's a brilliant decision. What a brilliant IQ, a million.
Daniel Cormier, one of the dumbest men you could ever meet.
I'm sure Chandler was tired from throwing looping bombs constantly, but a couple more shots there and he could have had him out of there. Maybe not. Like maybe it would have went a different way. But when your game plan is to go out there and explode all over him and kind of put the intensity on him and just try to hit him with the biggest punch you possibly can, that was your chance. And he made a bad decision, in my opinion. I don't know why the commentators thought that was a good decision, but yeah, Poirier kind of confirmed it, as you said afterwards. That, yeah, man, he had me fucking out there or nearly out there. If he had thrown straight punches instead of looping punches, I probably would have been gone. And he kind of let the moment pass by and made the wrong decision. And even though he continued to kind of he was winning the fight or winning the round, the second round and all that, but yeah, these moments, they could, like, you got to take them. If you're going to beat Dustin Poirier, you got to take that moment, and he didn't. And Poirier got stronger as the fight went on, and Chandler started to tire. And yeah, it was well weathered by Dustin Poirier, but he was kind of let off the hook a little bit.
Oh, 100%, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And like, fair enough for DC to be an idiot. We know that's going to always happen. But then Joe Rogan to like not call him out and he's an idiocy, and then to agree with him, I'm like, is this really what we're getting from the commentary? No, I'm not going to go on another commentary rant, because it's just so awful, and there's no escaping it. There's no, people don't like me talking about it, so I won't. But yeah, it was really, but like the point I think on that is, like, you have missed the biggest talking point in this fight. You've just completely missed it, because you used to be a wrestler and you think everybody should wrestle. That's exactly what this was, like the way he always fucking commentates. And he just, like, it just took away from the story of the fight, basically, because that was it. Like, Chandler was winning, he was landing big shots. But I'll say it again, there's nobody in this sport who has a better second win than Dustin Poirier. It's fucking so good. And as you said, Graeme, the second round didn't go his way, although he did land a big left hand that bursted the nose of Chandler. He did land one cutting elbow, and see, Chandler like blew his nose into his face and also fish hooked him, which he admitted afterwards. It was a dirty old fight. It was a dirty old fight. But Poirier came back.
You're fighting if you can get away. If the ref's going to let you away with it, like,
that's it. I agree. Like, everyone's giving out about that. When I saw that, I was like, do you know what?
This was a fucking war. Like, you know what I mean? They were. It was all on the line. I don't know. Like, if you're doing it egregiously for ages or something, maybe okay, but like just a little bit, I don't know, maybe that's a bit
a little bit of fish hook as well.
Like if you can get away with it, like I think it didn't lead to a finish or anything. It wasn't too egregious. It definitely was against the rules, but I think it was only momentarily as well.
Yeah, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. In the third inning, Poirier just won the transitions. Chandler tried the takedown to take the back at the same time as he got the takedown, and it just completely went against him, the Chandler, and he was tired, and that second win to Poirier looks so good. Took the back, and once you get Poirier taking your back, it's going to be an issue from then. And he got the third round finish, the rear naked choke, beautiful stuff from Poirier. I don't think it turned into necessarily. It was a war, but maybe not the war we were expecting. A different sort of war, and a great win for Poirier again. Afterwards, he talked about fighting Beneil Dariush. So yeah, interesting.
I think it's kind of shows how exciting these two guys have been recently, that you're nearly saying, it's slightly underwhelming, even though, like, that fight was an absolutely brilliant fight.
I don't think it was,
fighter A versus fighter B, but because of the two guys, the levels we kind of expect from them and the excitement we expect from them, maybe you think, that was a bit underwhelming, but I really enjoyed it. I
enjoyed it too, yeah. No, I don't think it was underwhelming necessarily. Like, we didn't get many big exchanges. We got him a little bit in the first, but I think Chandler was winning those exchanges for the most part, until he got the takedown, and then he got back up, and then Poirier was kind of winning the exchanges, and all. I had Chandler badly hurt, and I thought he had him, and in the second round, Chandler dominated, and in the third round, Poirier dominated. So it wasn't like, it was a very, very fun fight, but it was like, it wasn't that even of a fight for a long period, if you get me. Like, if it was 3 rounds of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, it'd be a little bit different, which I think people were expecting.
Like one moment one guy's winning, the next moment the other guy's winning.
Yeah, it was a little bit in the first round, absolutely. The first round was very, very good, but the second and third, not really, so, but still a very good fight. I'm definitely not criticising the fight, but just not maybe what a lot of people were expecting. Anyway, let's move on.
QLs.
Funniest fight of the year. Funniest fight of the year. Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, Jiu-Jitsu doesn't work at the high level of MMA. This kind of showed it. And Dan Hooker,
especially when you have absolutely no takedown ability.
And he also was like, all right, I can't get him. I'm just kind of gonna give up here a little bit. And Keith Peterson was the referee, I think, and he kind of just said, look, I'm just stopping this now. Nothing really happened. The body kick, apparently there was a bit, but like Puella's just...
Oh, you're not getting up?
No, I'm not getting up. Okay, we'll just stop it. And fair play to Dan Hooker.
I'm sick of this shit.
Yeah, that basically was it. There was definitely no nonsense there. But Dan Hooker just like sat down to stop Puella's getting a knee bar and just like finished jiu-jitsu in that one moment, and stayed very steady on the feet and won the fight. So fair play to Dan Hooker. He could fight Hinata Maikana maybe next time. We put on a great display, won by rear naked choke against Brad Riddell, and cut like one of the greatest promos in the history of MMA afterwards, just like roaring, I want money, Maikana wants money. And it was absolutely fucking epic. If people went back and maybe just woke up and watched the fights, you have to go back and watch Maikano's promo after it. Absolutely fucking hilarious. One of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. So yeah, I like that fight. I think they should make that fight maybe over in Perth or somewhere like that. So that's very good. We'll run through the rest of the card here, but it was an excellent card. Obviously the lads over in the takeaways will break it down in depth as well, but Ryan Spann got a big power knockout against Reyes, who, his chin doesn't look like what it used to be.
Yeah, he did well against Jones, and people kind of had high hopes for him, but it's really gone really badly for him, and he just looks like he can't take the shots. I was going to say what you said, and Ryan Spann hit him with a big power jab, and he just couldn't take it. And it's a 205 division. If you're fighting these guys, you're going to have to, you're going to take some shots, and I don't know how he turns this around. Maybe he's sparring too hard or something. I don't know. Maybe he needs some time off or something to recover his chin, or maybe he's just a bit chinny. It's a tough situation to be in, because he definitely has talent, but he just can't take the shots. Yeah,
and even Dana White was talking afterwards and saying, I'll have to have a chat with him about what he wants to do next. So I don't think that'll be a good chat, to be honest. But Ryan Spann, I've been impressed with Ryan Spann. Recently I watched a good bit of one of his fights for the betting show or something, or a few of his fights, and I was very impressed. Like, he hits hard, as we saw in this. He's lots of submissions, a very good guillotine. He's a good fighter, very good athlete. Said as well, he's never trained fully for a fight. 3 weeks was the longest training camp he's ever had, which sounds ludicrous, but also like, if you're an up-and-coming fighter, you don't have that much money or anything like that, you might have to work like a full-time job, and there's probably no way you can get to your camp or something like that, or maybe there's no way. So that's probably actually not as ludicrous as people may think, but very good performance from him, and looking forward to seeing where that goes. We'll talk about Molly McCann last year, but Petrosky versus Thurman was probably the go-to-sleep fight of the night, although it wasn't too bad. Petrosky won that one. Frivola got a big knockout, walked out to some New York Mets team, which the crowd liked, and knocked out the Spudman Ottoman Nights. So very good stuff there from Frivola. Karolina Kowalkiewicz put on a good performance to beat Silvana Gomez Juarez. I don't know if you saw, Graeme, afterwards they were writing out the scores, and the commission seemed to write the scores. So the scores are handed up by the judge after every round on a little piece of paper. It says like 10-9, blue corner or whatever. Next judge does the same. Next judge does the same. Next round, first judge hands it up. Second judge, and then all 9 of those cards are taken up at the end. And maybe they do it the first three are filled in, then the second three are filled in, the third three are filled in, and they obviously filled it in wrong somewhere. I think Stephen Morocco has it up exactly what happened. That did one of the judges they put their number in, or they put their score in backwards or something like that, and they had to change it. And the commission, like, this has happened before. We've seen this happening before, and there's a bit of a delay, and they get it fixed. This commission lad ran in, taking the card off Bruce Buffer, realised he'd fucked up, then was doing it up against the cage, then panicked, went out of it again. It just looked really bad. Now, there was no... I would say there was no fiddling here.
Funny business going on.
Funny business going on. But like the New York Commission, anyone who was around at the time when MMA got legalised, I think a lot of people probably know about the New York Commission, and boxing fans especially as well know about it. Not exactly the best commission in the world. They keep bringing in Doug Crosby to judge and things like that. So not that. This didn't look great, but like it was just more commissions being inept, I think, than anything else. But a good win for Kovalkiewicz anyway. Trezana won. Lovely left hook over Sung Woo Choi. There was a double knockdown in this. It was very fun.
Right at the start of the fight, You love a double knockdown.
Love it.
Great
Absolutely
fun.
Love it. Montel Jackson beat Julia Arce. Carlos Ulberg. Carlos Ulberg looked really good. I've been a fan of his. Beat Nikolai Negomareanu, who just did nothing really. Just stood there and got beat. But good undercard, good main card and all that.
Got beat.
He kind of did. You couldn't say the same for Molly McCann though, who dominated by Erin Blanchfield, but never, she never gave up at any stage. We said this coming in. I think everyone kind of said it. The lads in the preview show said it and things. This matchmaking was. It makes sense, I suppose, from a numbers point of view. I think Molly McCann was 14 and Erin Blanchfield is 12 or something, but this is not the match you make for Molly McCann when you're trying to build her. We said they should
give her the Paddy kind of matchup treatment.
Yeah, not necessarily like that, but don't put her in there with the toughest up and comer in the whole division.
Exactly. Yeah, she's kind of getting her momentum going. She's kind of coming into her own, and then you just kind of throw her in there in a very difficult matchup. And as you said, she fought hard, but. Yeah, I kind of had the same sentiments as I think what Joe Rogan said. Please tap, because it looked like it was going to break, and it's just like, oh, you don't need to break this. Just it's not your night.
Indeed, yeah, I tend to agree. And look, she tried to tough it out, and as I was thinking to myself, Molly's not the tapping type, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing.
I was thinking that as well. I was like, oh god, this could be a Frank Mir, Nogara type situation where it gets chicken winged, but. Yeah, she made a smart move and tapped. We said it before. It's a very difficult matchup for her. It turned out that way. She was stuck in a really difficult position. It's not like a rear naked choke where you can go to sleep and wake up and you're okay. It's this could be a year out. A shoulder injury could be more out. It could be a career affecting. So yeah, smart decision is to tap out there and live to fight another day.
100%. Erin Blanchfield though looks so good. Whew, she's an animal,
even better than expected, to be honest. Went out there and just imposed her will and just looked really good everywhere, and went for the finish, and you can't really fault anything she did.
100%. Very, very good performance from her. Right, let's look ahead to next week. There's loads of stuff coming up next week. Invicta, first of all. Danny McCormack's fighting Invicta. She's fighting Maria Mazar. Be very interesting to see Danny. Obviously, she had a good run in Bellator that maybe didn't end brilliantly. I named her at the start of the year as one of the people I think could get to the UFC because they simply didn't have her division in Bellator. But it was a tough end to her trip there, and she will be looking to. Looking to get back to winning ways, I suppose, over Invicta. I think it's a good move. Shauna Bannon over Invicta now as well. Although Shauna Bannon's fighting in Cage Legacy now as well, which is like, that is, to me, is just senseless. Like, you make that move to this world level, and then you come back to fighting the local show. And I kind of understand that she wants to stay busy and all that.
I think is probably the reasoning, is it?
Yeah, but there's a card now. There's 5 fights in this card. Could they not have gone her fight in this card? Like, I don't know. It makes...
Yeah, from Invicta's point of view, you think they would want to put her on the card, but if they're not giving Shauna the fight, then I can understand why she wants to fight. But from Invicta's side of things, I don't know why they would. If she asks, "Oh, can I fight in Cage Legacy at this stage?" They're like, "Oh, do you want to fight in Invicta instead?" And the answer would probably be, "Yeah, I want to fight in Invicta instead."
Yeah, but look, fair play to Shauna, or for Danny anyway. She's a big fight next week, and I'm looking forward to seeing.
It's an important one, you know. Danny needs to win this, you know. Obviously there was talk of you're undefeated, you're kind of going in there all confident, and there's talk of the UFC and everything's rosy, and now this is the adversity, you know. You're not in Bellator anymore. You're kind of going to a new promotion, needing to win. It's a, like, you know, it's a big moment in her career, I think, and you know, I think she probably has the tools to win this fight, but there'll probably be a lot of things going on in her head that she didn't have to deal with when she was the undefeated fighter.
Yeah, 100%. Very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Best of luck to Danny out there. There are two pretty good one championship cards as well next week. Christian Lee is fighting in the main event against Cameron Abasov.
The main event.
Main event. Did I say the main event?
I think so.
Oh well, these things happen. But yeah, that should be a fun one. Bibiana Fernandez against Steve Lohman. And I suppose the people who've been watching, the chasing pack, I suppose, will be looking forward to that one too. Very, very good fighters. Lohman, the striker, and obviously Bibiana Fernandez, very good on the ground. Kevin Bellion against Kim Woo-Jim as well. Very good. Kim knocked out Martin Nguyen there last year, I think it was, and Bellion's a devastating striker, so that's very interesting. There's other stuff on that card as well. Then the 163 card is pretty good. Shinya Aoki is fighting on this, Graeme. He's fighting this guy Sagid Ismagayev, and I watched a bit of him recently. He's an absolute killer, and I think he's going to destroy Shinya Aoki, if I'm honest here. Yushin Okami is fighting Ong Lunasong, which Yushin Okami's still doing it. Ong, his issue is with wrestlers, so if Shinya can, or if Yushin can take him down, I think that could be an interesting one there. But if he can keep it standing, you would think Ong Lunasong will knock him out. Yuka Wakamatsu, who fought both Demetrius Johnson and Adriana Moraes, is on the card as well. Izuki Hirata is fighting Sohee Ham, who we saw in the UFC, but Hirata is one of the stars over in one championship on the way up. She's a very, very good fighter as well. Then we have a very good Cage Warriors card, Cage Warriors 147. We might have a show on that during the week, so maybe we'll kind of leave that. Will Curry's on the card against Big Mike. Sam Creasy is fighting for the 125-pound title against Shaj Haq. George Hardwick and Chris Bungard are fighting for the lightweight title, and Morgan Charrier is on the card as well. So a very, very good card there. Amran Shaban as well, out of Team KF, is fighting George McManus, who fair play to George McManus, he seems to fight all the up-and-comers in that promotion. So good stuff there. Interesting to see Bungard getting the fight against George Hardwick. I think Hardwick will probably win that, but it'll be interesting to see how that one goes there. But I suppose the biggest card of next week is Bellator 288. There's a UFC card next week as well. Hold on, we see who's fighting in this. Derek Lewis against Sergey Spivak. Yeah, why not?
And yeah, another one of these cards that maybe we were talking about earlier, where you look at the prelims and you don't recognize some names, or there isn't much jeopardy there, but there's a couple of fights that should be interesting on the card, and on paper sometimes these cards don't look as good as they turn out to be, and there's a few fights that are hard to predict. So yeah, this could be a good fight, but it's a hard one to get excited about, I think. Yeah,
I think there'll probably be a big knockout in Kutalaba versus Kindi Njoku. I like Jack Daniel Madalena versus Danny Roberts. That's a fun fight, but yeah, other than that,
Madalena should have, that's a very difficult fight for Danny Roberts there, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Danny Roberts is a good fighter, but I would tend to agree with that as well. And I'm sure there's some good up-and-comers on the undercard, but as I said, the lads in the preview show will talk about that as well.
There's big wins for Jimmy Wallhead, and
yes,
kind of touched on Leroy Duncan as well earlier, but Figlak, I kind of was expecting more from him, but Jimmy Wallhead looked sharp. He looked really good for a man of his age and kind of wear and tear inside the ring and fights, but he's a very experienced guy, and he's not just an experienced guy. Maybe when you become a kind of veteran, people kind of forget about your skills. But he went out there and landed a big right hook in the first round, and got that interim Cage Warriors championship. And if you hadn't have won that, if he had went out there and lost, it probably would have been his his last chance at getting there. You know, it'd be a difficult road back at least. So that was a huge win for Jimmy Wallhead. A very impressive performance from him.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time at the moment for European MMA, I suppose, because you had that Cage Warriors card last week, the Cage Warriors card last night, which completely flew under the radar. I almost forgot it in the podcast there, but as you said, very good win for Judo Jimmy. I thought Figlak looked really nervous, like, you know, and it was... Experience means a lot in MMA, and you saw Jimmy going out there just throwing his hands, and Figlak just seemed to be stuck in the spot, and he got knocked out because of it. But fair play to Judo, to Judo Jimmy, he's put in all that effort and put on all those years to gain that supremacy, I suppose, in experience, and he showed it. And then Christian Leroy Duncan, as you mentioned, you know, and as well on the undercard, Samuel Bark beat Manny Akpan. He's very, very good. All the up-and-coming Liverpool guys from Next Gen won, Luke Riley and the rest as well. They look like a great bunch coming through. But Christian Leroy Duncan, this guy will be in the UFC very, very soon. I know he's only 7-0, I think, now, but he's a phenom. He's so good. His opponent as well, I went back and watched a good bit of him, and he's not a bad fighter, but Christian just made it look easy. I thought the stoppage was a little bit early. As I said, he didn't necessarily get the chance, but it wasn't the worst in the world either. And yeah, very, very interesting. There was a KSW card as well, Graeme. Saladin Parnas got the finish there. Tom Breeze unfortunately lost in that one, but a
bit of controversy around the stoppage, or they weren't happy with the stoppage.
Was there? I actually haven't seen
exactly
it.
What happened? Was it back of the headshots or something? I'm trying to remember now. There was so many fights, I was trying to watch at the same time.
And Henry Felipe as well got a
Peruvian necktie.
Lovely stuff. Very good stuff. There's a lot going on this week.
It's been a good return. He's come back with a bang. Henry Felipe, he's getting in there regularly, taking fights and getting wins and finishes. So fair play to him. It's good to see him back. You know, he's been around a long time. We made a video on him about 10 years ago. You know, when he was up and coming, and you know, you look at his record now. He's experienced. He's been in there with tough guys all over the world. You know, he's never backed down, and he'll take a fight on short notice. He's kind of from the old school, and you know, it's good to see him on a winning streak here. And hopefully, he gets signed to a big promotion, you know, decent promotion, and get some big paydays.
In KSW, no, they're pretty decent promotions.
Yeah, I don't know if did he sign a multi-fight deal, or was that just?
I think so. Maybe I'm wrong now.
Oh, maybe he did. Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Maybe he did.
It's good to see him getting good paydays anyway, and getting wins and getting a Peruvian necktie. You know, he's known as a striker back in the day, and maybe wasn't the best for turning up the training and stuff like that, but he just has a natural ability and picks things up quickly. We've always heard that about him for anybody who's trained with him or coached him and stuff like that. He definitely has a lot of ability, and you may look at his record and see 9 losses or whatever and think that maybe he's an up and down fighter, but I think, you know, taking fights on short notice and not really training properly in the past has led to his record being like that. I think his ability is a lot better than his record would represent. Indeed.
Fair play to Henry. Right, let's get to this Bellator card. Look, on the undercard, they have what you'd expect from Bellator. All their very good up-and-comers. Jordan Newman, 4-0. Sullivan Colley, 4-0. Lucas Brennan, 7-0. Archie Colgan, 5-0. Jalen Bates, 6-0. Jairo Pacheco, 7-0. So lots of very, very good up-and-comers there. Aliyev, 8-0. You know, and Roman Fernaldo, definitely the stand out there. He's 8-0, but he's taken a step up now. He's fighting Levin Cocelli in this one, who's 10-2. You know, been around for a good while, has been in there with the likes of, you know, Gaiti, Yamauchi and others as well. So he's already taken the steps up. Haven't gone well for him, I suppose, but Fernaldo, big knockout artist, well-rounded, can do it all. So interesting to see how that goes. Tyrell Fortune is on the card as well. Daniel Vaichel is fighting another up-and-comer, Timur Kizriev. I know we have the 2 title fights. The 205-pound rematch after the first one ended in a no contest between Vadim Nimkov and Corey Anderson, and then Patricky Pitbull against Usman Nurmagomedov. Actually, I must go back and watch the Nimkov-Anderson fight, but from what I remember of it, Anderson was kind of winning. And like, Nimkov has been a dominant champion there for a while and is a very, very good fighter. So I'm really excited to see that one. And the Nurmagomedov Patricky fight, I think, look, I think Usman is going to win this one. I think he is absolutely fantastic. Really good on the ground, good standing up as well. Can finish a lad, has rear naked chokes and front chokes and different things like that. Patricky, a good fighter, but like, I think Usman is a different level. 15-0 here. It should be the win, I think, for Usman or Magomedov. I never roll out them pitbulls. What do you think in the two top fights?
I think, like, selfishly, I hope that Nurmagomedov stands a bit at the start with Pitbull just to see what it looks like. But he probably will, have his own way here. And it'd be interesting to see exactly where he's at if we did get a bit more kind of time on the feet and maybe see him face a little bit of adversity. But I don't think, I think this is a very difficult fight for Patricky. In the main event, I'm trying to remember the first fight as well. I can barely remember, but like it's probably going to be Corey Anderson grinding out rounds. Maybe tiring Nemkov out as the rounds go on, but this could go either way, really. I think as well. Nemkov, obviously, as you said, has been dominant. Well, not that dominant, but pretty good champion for Bellator, and he has that big win over Ryan Bader, followed by the Phil Davis decision. So he's been there with some really really good guys, and he's shown he's a top level guy. But I think Corey Anderson is a guy who's just been kind of criminally underrated for a long time. He's obviously he's had a few losses in the UFC before he was cut. Or actually, I think maybe he was cut after the loss to Yan, and he kind of made a bit of a recovery, beating people like Glover Teixeira and stuff like that. So he's had a bit of an up and down time, and was harshly cuffed in the UFC. And usually when guys are kind of cuffed in the UFC, they're kind of castaways. But I think he's more than that. He's a really good fighter. He went in there and knocked out Ryan Bader as well in second last fight before the Nemkov fight. So both guys are very of a very good level. It should be a very good fight, but I think Corey Anderson has just kind of been flying under the radar for his all-round ability. His ability to game plan and execute a game plan as well has been very good, and I think he'll probably edge this one out.
Just looking at the Sherdog play-by-play here for the first fight. Nemkov won the first round, landing jabs and leg kicks. Corey Anderson won the second round, got the fight to the ground, put him on his back, landed a lot of elbows. Nemkov went for an armbar, but he kind of got beaten up on the ground, bloodied his nose and busted him up and things like that. So maybe I'll do that in the rewatch this week over on Patreon, because it's from, it's tough to remember all these fights to be honest, but I'm looking forward to it. It's a high level fight without a shadow of a doubt, and be interesting. Like, if people don't maybe know Usman Nurmagomedov as well, maybe hear the Nurmagomedov name and think, he's going to be like Khabib, and he is a little bit, he can wrestle, but he can strike as well. And I don't think I think you might get your wish of some striking with him and Patricky, because he I don't think he'll be afraid of that. Because he's fighting Patricky, maybe he will wrestle more heavily, but he's a very, very well-rounded fighter, and that should be a fun fight and a fun card. All told, the week after then we have the PFL finals, which we'll talk about next week. They're very, very fun, so keep an eye out for that as well. But a packed weekend of mixed martial arts next week. Invicta, Bellator, UFC 2-1 championship cards, an LFA card, Cage Warriors card. So a lot to digest over next week, and a lot to talk about as well. We will leave it there. If you would like to support us and enjoy what we do, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast, or if you go to SevereMMA.com/pints, PINTS, for the price of a pint a month, you can get loads of extra stuff, and you can help us out. The pints, actually, I was looking, apparently Patreon is like, it used to be like $5.50 with tax, and now it's like $6.05 or something. It's gone up like 50 cents. It's not our decision, fucking Patreon robbing bastards. But anyway, we were support us. It's only a 50 cent, sure, you'll be grand. And the price of pints now in Dublin especially, sure, it's probably cheaper. These fuckers, they put up the price of Heineken, Graeme, for fuck's sake.
Is there going to be a boycott? We need to boycott the Heineken.
Bring back
Carlsberg, probably the best lager in the world anyway. Huh?
Bring back Harp. I described you in the start of this podcast as the Harp lager of Irish media. So bring back Harp. That's what we need. So right, we will leave it there. Thanks everyone for listening. Patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. Manscaped.com. Use the promo code SevereMMA for 20% off and free shipping. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, follow us on social medias, and we'll leave it there with Graeme's quote for the week. Graeme, take it away.
Offer me solutions, offer me alternatives, and I decline. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
And I feel fine. What time do I feel like I know that song? Do I? What is that one?
4 a.m. It's the end of the world
as we know it. Oh, it's a
and I
great song.
feel fine.
Yeah, great song. Right, we'll see you all next week. Let's good luck.